It was the beginning of the 14th century. For the Byzantine Empire, Osman's victories were a disaster. The loss of Karakahhisar, Balaychik, Yarhisar, and Inagol had sent shock waves through Constantinople, exposing the empire's weakened grip over Anatolia. Emperor Andronikos II was heavily criticized for his inability to mount an effective defense against the Ottoman advance. With the Byzantine treasury nearly empty, hiring mercenaries or raising a new army was nearly impossible. Many Byzantine lords, once confident in imperial support, now began negotiating with Osman, seeing his rule as a more stable alternative to the distant and declining Byzantine emperor. Despite this, the Byzantines attempted one final stand, rallying their remaining tekfurs to form a defensive alliance against Osman. The strategy was simple: defend Isnik, Bursa, and Izmit at all costs. With the Byzantine alliance in disarray, Osman resumed his siege of Isnik. The city had already suffered during his earlier blockade, but the arrival of a Byzantine relief army had forced Osman to withdraw temporarily. Now, with the Byzantines weakened, he tightened his grip on the city. His forces cut off trade routes and supply lines, ensuring that no reinforcements or resources could reach the city. Osman stationed troops at key access points, effectively isolating Iznik from the rest of the empire, and a watchtower was constructed, allowing Ottoman scouts to monitor any movement around the city. Inside Iznik, desperation took hold. The Byzantine governor, already unpopular for his cruel rule, found himself unable to maintain order. The clergy, merchants, and common citizens, suffering under Osman's blockade, began looking for a way out. Osman's forces did not launch a full-scale assault. Instead, they starved the city into submission, allowing time to weaken its defenders. The fall of Iznik was inevitable. Its capture would mark another step in Osman's march toward dominance in Anatolia. As the Ottoman state grew in strength, its conquest brought it ever closer to the gates of Byzantium's last major strongholds, Bursa, Isnik, and Izmit. These cities, with their towering walls and strategic locations, were some of the last remnants of Byzantine rule in Anatolia. By this time, Osman was no longer a young warrior. Years of battle, leadership, and hardship had taken their toll. With his health declining, he began entrusting more military operations to his son, Orhan Gazi. Osman knew that a direct assault on Bursa would require significant preparation. Instead, he chose a strategy of encirclement and attrition, capturing surrounding towns and fortresses to isolate the city. Osman first focused on securing Bursa's surrounding forts, ensuring that no Byzantine reinforcements could reach the city. Kite, Kestel, and Ulubat, all strategically positioned, were swiftly conquered. He constructed 2 Ottoman fortresses near Bursa, effectively blocking the city's supply routes. The siege was as much psychological as it was military. Osman's forces controlled the countryside, leaving Bursa's defenders with no hope of resupply or reinforcements. Recognizing that intimate knowledge of the region's geography and Byzantine defenses was crucial, Osman turned to an unlikely ally, Mihal Koze, the tekfur of Harmankaya. Mihal had been a long-time acquaintance of Osman, their relationship built on mutual respect. As he witnessed the decline of Byzantine rule and the justice of Osman's governance, Mihal decided to convert to Islam. This moment was deeply emotional. Osman himself led Mihal in reciting the Shahada, welcoming him as Abdullah Mihal. Mihal's knowledge of Byzantine military tactics, defenses, and fortifications proved invaluable in Osman's future campaigns. His descendants, the Mihaloglu family, would later become legendary Ottoman raiders, striking deep into Europe for centuries to come. With Mihal by his side, Osman intensified his efforts to subjugate Bursa's surrounding territories. The tekfurs of Lefke and Sadirlik voluntarily surrendered, pledging their loyalty to Osman. Others, such as the tekfur of Lubluche Hisar, submitted without a fight, retaining his position under Ottoman rule. Some of Osman's commanders, such as Samsa Sargent, urged him to remove these tekfirs, fearing they could rebel later. However, Osman took a more pragmatic approach, arguing that offering peaceful submission would encourage other Byzantine lords to surrender without bloodshed. This strategy paid off, further expanding Ottoman influence without unnecessary warfare. However, not all Byzantine lords were willing to surrender peacefully. The Tekfur of Akhisar refused to submit, believing he could withstand an Ottoman assault. A pitched battle erupted outside the city walls, with Osman's forces launching relentless cavalry charges. Despite the Byzantine defenders' initial resilience, they broke under pressure, retreating inside the fortress. After a brief siege, Osman's forces stormed the city, capturing it in a decisive Ottoman victory. Encouraged by this success, Osman advanced toward Gazi, another fortified Byzantine city. However, rather than engage in prolonged siege warfare, Osman used deception and surprise tactics. His forces launched a nighttime assault, catching the defenders off guard. Within a few hours, Gazi fell to the Ottomans, further weakening Byzantine control in the region. The fall of Akhisar, Gazi, and surrounding towns marked a turning point. These victories served to set the stage for a rising star that would determine the future of Ottoman Empire, Orhan Gazi. With the Ottoman state expanding rapidly and Osman's health becoming worse by day, the next phase of its rise would rest on the shoulders of Osman Gazi's son and successor, Orhan Gazi. As the Byzantines reeled from their losses and the Ottoman influence spread across Anatolia, the transition of power from Osman to Orhan marked a defining moment in history, one that would shape the destiny of the empire for centuries to come. However, before assuming the mantle of leadership, Orhan had to prove himself as a warrior and strategist. His path to the throne would be forged in battle, tested by cunning, and solidified through conquest. While the Ottomans continued their westward expansion, new threats emerged from within Anatolia. A band of Safdar Tatars, known for their lawlessness and brutality, launched a series of raids into Ottoman territory. These Tatars were mercenary raiders, remnants of Mongol-aligned Turkic forces who had turned to banditry after the decline of Mongol influence in Anatolia. They attacked Ottoman villages, plundered markets, and disrupted trade routes, leaving destruction and fear in their wake. Reports quickly reached Osman Gazi, who, now in his later years, turned to his son Orhan to deal with the crisis. Realizing that a swift and decisive response was necessary, Orhan mustered a force of a few hundred men and set off to hunt down the Tatar raiders. His plan was as bold as it was effective. He lured the Tatars into a trap by feigning a weak and disorganized retreat, drawing them into a narrow valley at Oyunashisar. Once the Tatars were fully engaged, his hidden forces struck from the sides, catching the bandits completely off guard. The ambush was devastating. The Tatars, unable to maneuver, were cut down in a brutal melee. Their leader was captured alive, while the remaining raiders scattered, leaving behind their stolen loot. Orhan's brilliant strategy and battlefield leadership did not go unnoticed. Upon returning to Karakahisar with the captured Tatar leader, Orhan was met with cheers and admiration from his people. Osman Gazi himself recognized his son's abilities, acknowledging that Orhan had proven himself worthy of greater responsibilities. Seeing the loyalty and respect Orhan commanded, Osman decided to entrust him with a critical new mission: the capture of Caracas Fortress, one of the last major Byzantine outposts in northwestern Anatolia. Caracas Fortress, perched on the banks of the Sakarya River, was one of the best defended Byzantine fortifications in the region. Taking it would require not just brute force, but cunning and strategy. Understanding the fortress's strengths and weaknesses, Orhan devised a multi-pronged strategy. He divided his forces into 3 groups and positioned one group behind the fortress, lying in wait. A second group hidden in a nearby forest, ready to strike, while the third, led by Orhan himself, approached the fortress openly, seemingly vulnerable. Orhan's visible force acted as bait, drawing the attention of the Byzantine Tekfur of Karasis. The Tekfur, overconfident, launched a full-scale attack, believing that he could easily crush the smaller Ottoman force. As the Byzantine soldiers left the fortress to pursue Orhan's retreating troops, the hidden Ottoman units moved in from behind, scaling the walls unopposed. By the time the Tekfur and his forces realized the deception, it was too late. The Ottomans already controlled the fortress. Surrounded and outmaneuvered, the Byzantines were routed in a final engagement, securing a stunning victory for Orhan Gazi. The fall of Karasis was a major milestone. It further weakened Byzantine defenses in the region, bolstered Orhan's reputation as a military genius, solidifying his position as Osman's heir. With Karakas secured, Orhan turned his attention toward Akyazu, expanding Ottoman influence along the Sakarya River. While Orhan was leading Ottoman forces on the battlefield, Osman Gazi's health was in sharp decline. Yet, even on his deathbed, Osman remained fixated on one goal: the capture of Bursa. Bursa was one of the wealthiest cities in the Byzantine Empire, known for its trade, silk production, and strategic location. The city was heavily fortified but isolated from other Byzantine strongholds. Its fall would not only mark the end of Byzantine rule in the region, but also provide the Ottomans with a new capital. With Osman too ill to lead, Orhan took charge of the siege of Bursa, employing. After years of attrition, on April 6, 1326, Bursa's weary defenders surrendered without bloodshed. The city's residents welcomed Ottoman rule. Tired of Byzantine mismanagement, Bursa was declared the new Ottoman capital, symbolizing the transition from a small beylik to a powerful state. As news of Bursa's fall reached Osman, he knew his life's mission was complete. Calling Orhan to his side, he offered his final words of wisdom. Protect the state treasury, strengthen the religion and the state, show justice and kindness to your people, value the scholars, the virtuous, and the learned. Be just and steadfast in your rule. Trust in Allah and guard your people against enemy invasion and oppression. With these words, Osman Gazi, the founder of the Ottoman state, passed away. Osman's death marked the end of an era but the beginning of something far greater. The capture of Bursa was not just a military victory, it was the culmination of Osman's vision. His son, Orhan Gazi, now inherited an empire in the making. The Ottomans had transitioned from frontier warriors to rulers of cities, trade routes, and vast lands. With the Byzantine presence in Anatolia all but shattered, the Ottomans stood on the precipice of greatness. New challenges, new battles, and new conquests lay ahead. But one thing was certain: Osman Gazi's dream had come to life. Thus, the rise of the Ottoman Empire had truly begun.